Alright, so we're going to start with cervical flexion, and the subject is going to be seated with his feet flat on the ground and his back supported. So his lumbar and thoracic spine is supported, and the axis of the goniometer is going to go over the external auditory meatus. The stationary arm is going to be vertical alongside the head and perpendicular to the ground. And the moving arm is going to be aligned with the nasal base for the nostrils. And we're going to have the subject move his chin to his chest. So, you good? All right. And this reads 137. And since we're starting at 90, that's 47. All right, so next off, we're going to be doing lateral flexion. And we're going to position the subject with standing upright, barefoot, and his feet are going to be shoulder width apart. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the subject to take his right hand and laterally flex by sliding his right hand down his right leg. Make sure to relax your arm after. Thank you. And so what we got to look out for here is that he isn't lifting his left leg to compensate, and his pelvis is remaining stable. And he's also not, we also have to make sure he isn't compensating by flexing his hip or bending in his right leg. You can, thanks. So how we're going to position this is the axis of the goniometer is going to go right over the S1 sinus process, and then the stationary arm is going to be vertical alongside the body, and the moving arm is going to be aligned with the C7 sinus process. Go ahead and flex. Right, and relax. Okay. And as we can see, it's starting at 180. The goniometer is at about 151, meaning we have a reading of 31 degrees. Hi. So next off, we're going to be doing wrist radial deviation. So we're going to position the subject so that he's seated and his shoulder is abducted 80 to 90 degrees. His elbow is flexed 90 degrees, and his forearm is stabilized on a supported surface so that it can't pronate or supinate during the measurement. As you can see, the wrist is hanging off the edge of the table, and the axis of the goniometer is going to go on the capitate, so right about there. The stationary arm is going to be along the dorsal midline of the forearm and aligned with the lateral epicondyle. And the moving arm is going to be aligned with the third metacarpal. Right. Now I'm going to ask the subject to, there we go, position and move his hand towards his body. Okay. And we're starting from 180, and it ends at about 160, so that reads at 20 degrees. Okay, so for the last measurement, we're going to be doing ankle plantar flexion, and we're going to start with the subject seated with his feet hanging off the floor bare foot and the leg stabilized. So the axis of the goniometer is going to be placed over his lateral malleolus. The stationary arm is going to be following the lateral midline of the leg, and it's going to align with the fibular head. And then the moving arm is going to be aligned not on the fifth metatarsal, but parallel to the fifth metatarsal. So, I'm just gonna move here. All right, now I'm gonna ask the subject to point his feet towards the floor. And as you can see, it's lined parallel. Okay, thank you. And because we're starting at 90 degrees, and this reads at about 150, we know that the measurement is gonna be 160. 60.